Well, hi, thanks for talking to me today. I appreciate it. I enjoyed the episode. So,
Thank you, Jamie.
you wrote on the original series and now you're directing on this series. But what was it about this episode in particular? Because I assume usually, now I'm not, I don't work there, but usually I think you get to sort of choose an episode, don't you, with when it comes to which one you're going to direct, or am I incorrect on that?
Well, I wrote 25 episodes on the original show,
Right.
and I was the voice of Siki.
Yeah.
I was the voice of the opening monologue. I was supposed to direct 4 episodes of that series. We had no women, and every time it was my turn, because I was head writer in the writer's room, there was some urgency. The script wasn't ready. So the only 2 women that directed 2 episodes each were Debbie Allison and Anita Addison, who were both women of color. And I was very proud of that. But it was back in a time when it was tough for women of color to direct in television. I was a unicorn because I was a Black executive producer in sci-fi, unheard of.
Yeah.
But as a family style, I got the script and they said, this is going to be your script. And I read it and I went, oh my God, this is as close to the original show as I've seen in any of the scripts. I am so excited. It will have what and they've been very good about keeping the lore of the show.
Right.
But this one had humor, it had heart, it had history, it had subject matter that of immigration that was timeless because it's still going on.
Right.
Most of all, it had hope. It really talked about keeping faith in the best things. And I think Ben and his character, who was just a great cheerleader throughout this episode, when they were faced with, a kind of Karen landlord.
Yeah, definitely.
Got in their face and said, when he said, you blew this place up. And she went, no, I would never do that. And who would believe you?
Yeah.
It brought that attitude that those were the conversation moments in the in the original show.
Right.
People would talk about, oh yeah, this must be what it's like to walk in someone else's shoes and see how the world looks at you and treats you. And until we start doing that as a species, as a people, until we have empathy for poor people, people of color, women, we're not going to evolve as a species. So what the show did, and this show in particular, it touched on humanity, our humanity, and really laid out 2 sides of a story. And then it had this kernel of Ben's unfinished saying goodbye to his mother before she died. To me, that was such a moving moment. It was so important for me to tell it the way that I did. And I'm very proud of that. I'm very proud of the actors. Beautifully done.
Great episode. So, having worked on the original, how much are you thinking about sort of, I mean, you talk about this is the most, close to the original series, but how do you balance what you change because it's a new series versus keep for the fans of the original?
In the original series, you, the audience, were trapped in the past with Sam. We couldn't afford to go to the present, except for every now and then little bits and pops. And Al was the present day sentiment of what's happening in the past.
Right.
In this episode, we have this gorgeous headquarters that Mei Ling Chen designed, and just gorgeous. And I had the best time ever I love to be on the set, but I love shooting on the set and designing those shots. I think that the big difference is that. So we are in the present with this wonderful cast, Addison and Ernie Hudson.
Okay.
Caitlin Bassett, Ernie Hudson, Nanrissa Lee, and of course, Ian, who is played by Mason Alexander Park. And we get into their lives. So that's where the difference comes into. And they really bring in a present day sensibility to reflect on what's happening in the past. So I think that, the lore is changing, but if you look at, and I compare it all the time to Star Trek has had 9 spin-offs.
Yeah.
But the moral storytelling is still the core of that show. Quantum Leap, if we're lucky, we'll have, 9 spin-offs and some movies and a video game and all the other good things that I've been fighting for since we went off the air in 1994. Oh my God. And the opportunity to have hope. And I think because I made the decision and everybody fought me, and then finally Don Belisario said, yeah, you're right, not to bring Sam home, has kept the show alive so that people continue to watch it. I mean, I get into offices and meetings and young executives say, excuse me, before we start this meeting, I have to geek out.
Ask about it. What happened?
Well, then in the Ziggy voice, please.
Oh, that too. Yeah. Proves it hit a lot of people there. Is it hard to bring, like, obviously the show goes to different decades, and certain decades and times have like more iconic, costumes and moments and things like that. And so is there anything in particular from that time period that you sort of, I guess, brought into it to make it, specifically that year? And is it harder to do that because it's not something like, iconic 80s or, 70s? It's more recent. So does that make it more difficult in that sense?
You're talking about when we're in the present day?
No, in the past for this episode, when he goes back into the...
Well, if you listen to the music, especially at Diesel Pizza, it's definitely music from 2013. So music is incredibly important. Cars are incredibly important. Wardrobe is incredibly important. The idea is to put you emotionally and tactily into that world and environment. And then if we were to do an episode that took place when you were 6 or 7, when you were really cognitively aware of where you were in time, you may hear a piece of music that triggers those memories. So there's a very psychological side to Quantum Leap in the sense that we want you to time travel with us. My goal and what I contributed creatively as a creator on the show was, I want you to time travel with me. I want you to have your own visceral memories of what it was like in the times that we leap or Ben leaps back into. And I think that works incredibly well. And then it's interactive in the sense that I want you to step into the shoes of another person, of a man, of a trans, of someone of color, someone different from you, where you can say empathetically, oh my God, this is what this would feel like if somebody looked at me and saw that person. So the intelligence in the show is incredibly important to have the intelligence of the audience.
Right.
You're time traveling with us.
Right.
And if you invest in it, and if you imagine, what if that were me, which is what most people do on the show, because it has so much heart. The characters have so much heart. And I love what Martin and Dean and the writers' room have done with that to make you easily become these characters with Ben, and then experience the conflicts and the challenge that they experience, and then make your own decision. Well, how do I feel about that? Whether it's racism or sexism or any isms that's out there, challenging us as human beings. So it's a really smart show, but it's told on a simply human level. And I'm very, very proud of that.
Yeah, I was going to say,
watch even with your grandmother or your 6-year-old, and it's okay.
Yeah, I was just going to say, even with the sci-fi and the future, the present, not future part of it, if it doesn't have that kind of character and that heart, then it wouldn't work.
I agree 100%. And I think it's in a way like reading a good book. You put yourself in the book. That's, I read Harry Potter and I was 12 years old and I was going to Hogwarts. That's the end of the story. Yeah. And I think Quantum Leap has that. And if you can, which is why not bringing Sam home was so important to me. And some of the people that said to me, a story I share all the time is a young man said, I was maybe 8 or maybe 7, 8, 9 years old, and my parents were getting a divorce, and I kept wishing that Sam would leap into my family and make things right that once went wrong. As a creator, you can't ask for more.
Right.
Television to affect the humanity of another person and give them hope. And that's what Quantum Leap does, and that I'm proud to say does very well in every iteration that will ever come. But I have to say that this series, you know, in 2022, 2023, captures that heart and captures that hope.
Yeah, it's very timeless. I know we're about out of time, but I just want to quickly ask, in the email it said there's a feature film of some kind coming out for the show. Is there anything you're allowed to tease at all about that? I hadn't realized that till I read that email that it said you were working on it. I'm like, I got to hear about this. So,
well, let me put it this way. I've been working on it since 1994. I think it's the ultimate franchise, Quantum Leap. And what I'd like to do, because the fans have really asked for it, is to bring that back. So we're working on making that happen. And if the studio gets on board, then it will happen. But I have to say, the fans, if you want it, I need you to write in, tweet in, talk about it. Oh, and while you're watching the show, please tweet your favorite food. Please tweet your favorite family story. Your culture, what brings family together. Again, I believe Quantum Leap is an interactive show.
yeah, definitely.
And I believe that the viewers and the love that the fans have for the show love to participate, love to share their stories.
Right.
And that's important to me personally. So that's my request.
All right, good. All right. Well, thank you for your time. I appreciate it. Like I said, I enjoyed the episode. So thank you.
Pleasure to meet you. Thank you so
You
much.
too. Have a good day.